The tiniest speck of inhaled plutonium can bring lung cancer, experts tell us, which is why tonight's news from Japan is more dire than any since the monster quake and tsunami there. Authorities announced they suspect a large crack has formed in the core container of a reactor at Fukushima, meaning that highly radioactive material, uranium and plutonium, is exposed and potentially spreading through air and water. Here now is David Wright with the very latest.
This was the news everyone here has been dreading for 2 weeks now, since the nuclear crisis began. A suspected breach of the reactor core. Today, the Prime Minister himself called the situation grave and serious. We need to be extremely vigilant, he said, adding darkly, this is not a time for optimism.
Think of the little Dutch boy putting his finger in this crack, and suddenly a huge crack begins to open up.
The canaries in the reactor were the engineers who've bravely put their lives on the line to get the cooling system running again. Several of them were dragging a power cable in reactor number 3 when they stepped in a puddle and radioactive water seeped into their boots. 2 of them were rushed to the hospital with serious burns to their feet.
Skin contamination is maybe the least of their problems. There are lots of organs inside the body which are far more sensitive than the skin.
The doctors have since determined that the water they stepped in was 10,000 times more radioactive than water recently tested just outside the plant, leading the power company to conclude there must be a crack or a hole in the stainless steel chamber of the reactor core. They've now found water equally radioactive in reactor 1 and possibly reactors 2 and 4 as well.
Unit 3 is so dangerous because it's the only reactor containing what is called mixed oxide fuel, i.e. plutonium. Plutonium is one of the most toxic chemicals known to science. A dust particle that you can't even see inhaled into your lungs could cause lung cancer.
One huge concern now, is it even safe for the workers to keep working?
If it gets so radioactive that the workers have to evacuate, then it's abandoned ship. Then it's free fall. Then we could have simultaneously 3 nuclear meltdowns in 3 reactors. That is way beyond Chernobyl.
Authorities are now expanding the evacuation area from 12 miles to nearly 20 miles. These new atomic refugees left today from Minami Soma, 15 miles from the reactor.
Housing them all is proving to be an enormous challenge, and the government's being forced to be creative. This luxury hotel was due to be torn down later this spring. Instead, it's about to become a high-rise refugee camp.
Tokyo's drinking water had a brief scare this week when authorities tested radioactive iodine at levels considered unsafe for babies. Then the governor of Tokyo, who's up for re-election, quickly declared the tap water safe, even drank a glass himself. But many don't buy it. Bottled water is still in huge demand. The public skeptical. They're not getting the full truth about the threat. It's been 2 weeks now since the earthquake and the tsunami swept entire coastal neighborhoods out to sea. Toshimi Sasaki and his wife Emi have been searching every day for their children, 3rd grader Nagami, who's 9, and 1st grader Tetsumi. The tsunami swamped their school up to the 2nd floor. A few days ago, they found their son's body, but their daughter is still missing. He looked just like he did, the father said. I feel like my son answered my call and came home, but in a sad and disappointing way. But for the families of the people near the reactor, no such closure. Nodio Kimodo has been trying to find his wife Miyuki, his youngest daughter Umi, and his 77-year-old father Wataru. But their house is inside the exclusion zone around the reactor. He can't get anywhere near it. He and his sister-in-law comb through the lists of names at the emergency evacuation shelters. They live in one themselves. They visit the morgues. They post flyers anywhere that'll take them, hoping someone may have seen them. But so far, no luck. And the one place they can't look is where they're most likely to be, near their house, behind that invisible barrier. He says, I don't care about the nuclear reactor. I just want my family back. We won't be satisfied until we can see with our own eyes if there's any trace of them, she says. But that won't be possible until the emergency crews finally contain the threat from the nuclear plant. And it now appears that won't happen anytime soon. I'm David Wright for Nightline in Tokyo.